the weaknesses, I would say, with Fiora, both sets of the deck, as we go into things, we'll get the overlay updated just shortly. It is Fiora rather than a Darius, but one of the things about the Fiora matchup is from what we've seen, would say that Fiora Worthy is probably kind of like the main part of the deck that is necessary to consistently pressure the board, to consistently be able to play units that allow you to get out onto the battlefields quickly.
I actually think in this matchup, Fiora Victorious is also really, really important. Some people side deck it, some people main deck it, but just having a unit that has the keyword deflect versus a deck like Viktor is crazy important, just so you dodge some of those spells, or you actually just stop your opponent from ramping up more runes, more energy. And also Fiora gains ganking. It's not the most relevant thing in all the games, but if you're playing in a Vilemaw Slayer battlefield, sometimes it's really hard to get out of there. I mean, most of the time, realistically, it's hard to get out of there. But with ganking, you can just profit, honestly.
Yes, yeah. I think when we're looking at this matchup, I would say it probably, the longer it goes, might get a little bit trickier for Fiora if you start running out of units. So this version already, okay, so what we've seen already tells me this, we're not going for the baited hook version of Fiora. Typically, the Lucian version is the more, I think some people call it like mid-range or a standard version of Fiora, where you're playing a few more units. They're a little bit smaller at the beginning, but you run more equipment, more abilities that power up your units to make them mighty and get out onto the battlefield. So Lucian, one of the telltale signs that we're probably playing that version rather than the baited hook. And Lucian is an exceptionally strong unit if it gets to stick around. Because of the way the mechanic goes, when you conquer a battlefield, he's actually going to ready himself and then can move either to safety, or if you're playing a version that can give him ways of moving between battlefields, then you can kind of do the loop around and score multiple times in a turn.
That helps, and that gets completely hard countered by the Vilemaw Slayer.
Yes, exactly.
Because if you move in there, you have a problem. And now I really like what the Viktor player is doing, because you just push your recruit token into the Vilemaw Slayer, and then if your opponent doesn't combat this with a Lucian, and Lucian really doesn't want to go into the Vilemaw Slayer, not a big 3v3 player, I think you're just holding with a recruit token, and that's crazy.
Yeah, so Viktor being played, Blue Viktor, essentially when you play a spell on your opponent's turn, you're going to be able to get a recruit token for that. One thing about this though is Viktor being tapped out, there is a strike down in hand for JW Anthony, where that's a spell that basically is going to deal damage to an enemy unit and then unequip an equipment that is attached to a unit. So may very well see it come out and take out that Viktor from the back line. So it could be a tricky situation being tapped out. A lot of Viktor's gameplay happens on your opponent's turn. At least this version of Viktor loves casting spells not during their own turn. You get a lot more recruits that way.
I mean, it says it on the card, right?
Exactly.
It's like when you play cards on your opposing turn, you get free recruit tokens. But honestly, Fiora's deck, the combination of order and body runes, they have so many combinations of getting rid of cards. Something like a challenge or a strike down is really, really strong. And this is one of the nicest combinations you can have. That is Warmog's armor versus or with the monastery, because you can actually just sequence your triggers. You can just go, hey, Warmogs, I'm conquering, so I'm getting a buff, and then of course the battlefield triggers as well. So guess what? I can spend a buff to draw a card, and this is where Lucian Merciless comes in heavy, because you can just move it back, and next turn you're gonna go in there again. You're gonna get another draw. You're gonna have a great time.
And if it's not a strike down, a challenge will do the job as well. Consult the Past was hidden on the previous turn. One of the things about this Viktor deck, you do have a couple of hidden cards that you basically can play around. You have the Hidden Blade, which is used a lot to kill your own recruits, to draw in a losing combat, but also then, of course, Consult the Past. A lot of that based around having cards in hand to be able to kind of get yourself out of situations in following turns. And here is one of those key cards in the deck. Fiora Worthy being played. If it sticks around, which is dangerous against this Viktor deck, this is where you can get a little bit of tempo from Fiora.
But I really like developing it in this turn, because Our opponent is only at 5 runes, so we are out of Singularity range. This is where it gets really dangerous for you. Singularity is one of the best mid-game removals, actually also end-game removals, depending on what deck you're playing against. It's really not the greatest card versus decks that play something like Mind Splitters, because you know what, they just live. But against those mid-range decks like a Fiora, it's really strong. At this point, you could take out Lucian and Fiora, but in the next turn, you know, if you're leaving 2 runes open for your opponent to anticipate what you could have, do you drop a Singularity into a possible riposte?
Well, as you said, we see it in hand. There's a couple other cards now to be careful of. Drag Under is there in hand as well. That is a card that basically is, to be honest, I think it's a little bit difficult to actually get for the cost. You rarely want to play it like on your turn. You're always looking to do it on your opponent's turn. Try and get the unit at a battlefield. But one of the things about Fiora Worthy is she basically is never going to a battlefield. If you start putting a Fiora Worthy to a battlefield, something has gone a little bit wrong and you're having to contest for points.
Or you're finishing the game.
Or you're finishing the game.
Might as well. If you're getting the winning point with Fiora Worthy, then you have my blessing.
But Drag Under is an expensive card in my mind. Like, one of the benefits of when you have the Victor is you get a recruit on the back end, but there is the Drag Under. Luckily the Seal was played earlier, so able to compensate for the yellow recycle.
Oh, and that does not look like there is a big good answer for that. There is no riposte. And that is also another good thing about the Viktor deck. You don't need a lot of tempo. You can basically waste your energy away. You have a few good kill spells. You have a few expensive kill spells. And in other decks, you're like, oh my goodness, I have to be as efficient with my runes as possible. You know, I have to place some spells, make sure I can still develop some units on the field. No! Viktor does that for you.
And one of the things that I was looking at this matchup of, it kind of depends which kill spells or damage spells Viktor draws in which order, because Fiora can go over the top of them. Like, you can protect units to survive through damage, and then once those big spells are out, suddenly Viktor's not so difficult to deal with. But I will say this, like, direct kill spell, like single target, remove a unit, doesn't matter how much might it's got, is a lot harder to deal with. And here's where the Fiora deck can run into a few problems. When you start losing units, you only have a finite amount in your deck, whereas Viktor is just going to be like, yep, here's another recruit, add another one to the board, keep swarming you.
And now, I think we're already at a pivotal point of the game, because Riftbound is so incredibly dynamic, right? You have so many decision trees already. There's 2 battlefields open, your opponent is tapped out. You could go for points here. You could just really greed into it, but do you want to risk your Fiora Worthy?
Here's one thing, though, that to know about Set. Because of the way that the mechanic works with Set, he's going to enter as a 4 and get the buff up to become 5, so Fiora Worthy is going to allow you to play Set as like an active unit that turn and start moving. I feel like that is normally the interaction you would see, was Set is going to be able to move, but hasn't this turn, unless I'm mistaken on that.
I mean, do you want to push it into the Vile Mausoleum? We're already at the point where you have quite the big investment on your units, and I think if you invest too much here, you might run out of cards soon. But I really like that we're going for a draw here. Fiora Worthy in this matchup. The question is, how important is it for you to get your units ready in the turn you play them? Because versus Viktor, you know that you're not going to combat the biggest fields, right? You have even a rookie, a 2-might unit, can just get you the same amount of points as your Set Brawler.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a fair point as well when looking at things. With the Viktor tapped out as well, the Fiora being able to go and come back is not the end of the way, because the way that it was played with the Warmogs, Fiora actually comes up to 5, gets the buff, and basically becomes mighty. You can recycle Rune and protect Fiora. So I can understand the line there now that we've seen it. It's not necessarily so much of a line that I had seen in that one.
Oh, we're going for an Imperial Decree here. Every damage that is going to be applied to units is going to be lethal now, and that's a Bellows Breath if I've ever seen one, completely tapped out. What a turn! That is a massive push.
And that is devastating at this point of the game. Like, you just spent a lot of resources to develop that board into 3 units and thinking they're protected, but Imperial Decree, Bellows Breath, again, Bellows Breath, one of the newer cards coming from Spirit Forge. This time doesn't need to be repeated, because as you said, Imperial Decree is going to mean any damage will kill a unit. Bellows Breath, deal 1 up to 3 units at the same location. For newer players, the base is a location. It is a selectable location with Bellows Breath. That's exactly what we see see here from our Viktor player, and wipes the backline. And from here, Viktor holding both battlefields, now no Fiora worthy from the champion zone, makes it kind of tricky to stabilize in this matchup for Fiora.
Definitely, and you know what is even more nasty in this one? You invested a full rune, you de-rammed yourself to get your Fiora back to base. If you didn't do that, the combination wouldn't have worked.
It's the one time where it's the wrong play, which or at least like a difficult play, because you don't necessarily have that information, of course. You maybe are thinking about playing around it, but at some point, you know, you just have to go for it. You're kind of expecting, okay, my opponent's going up past 6, probably a singularity. I'll probably lose 2 units, so therefore I'll develop a 3rd.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, how much playtesting do you have versus this specific iteration of Viktor, or any Viktor really? It's not a deck with the biggest meta share. So it's really, really tough to playtest against all of these decks that are in the room. Every deck has the same chance. Every deck can have the element of surprise. Oh, and now we are spamming recruits here. This is one of the win conditions of the Viktor deck.
And a couple of Viktor decks have been playing like the Jace version to try and cheat out the Vanguard Armory. When you get to just play it because you're not worried about what your opponent is doing it, that's a pretty good sign for being in control of the game. Vanguard Armory, one of the new gears from the set that you basically, once you play it, you can tap it every single turn on your turn to play 3 recruit tokens, which is quite good value when you know, every turn you get to do it, you just are going to spam the board, constantly have pressure. And we said that the disparity in this matchup could come down to just who has the units left, and Viktor's always going to win that one.
That's true. What I also think is interesting is that you do it this turn. You're holding, your opponent only has a pit rookie, and you're at 7, so you only need to hold 1 battlefield. Is it necessary to tap yourself out here to just exhaust all of your runes just to get 3 recruit tokens? I mean, you're gonna get infinite value from now on. That's a great thing for you. But I feel like you could have won the game that turn much quicker. However, it's not a race yet. Yeah,
looking at what's in hand, looks like a Stupefy. I think it's another Imperial Decree. Obviously, Singularity not usable on your opponent's turn. So
right, yeah,
I'm looking at like what are the options available that actually would be able to hold that. It's an interesting line to like look through. I also am along the same line of like, if you're holding, tapping out is a little bit dangerous because Fiora still does have power in the tank to like drop pit rookies and things and start untapping and get a lot of presence. But it now is a lot more dependent on what JW Anthony has in hand, whereas Viktor's like, well, I've got everything just on board on my next turn.
Also, actually, you know what? I take it back, I think it's always the better play, because the only lose condition you have at this point is basically if the Vanguard gets stolen by an Akshan.
Okay, which is possible. Fiora decks do run Akshan. I guess the other side of this is Singularity on your turn, which you know you have, can just wipe both battlefields if there's only 1 unit on each, and you're not too worried from then. You just go, okay, recruit to 1, recruit to the other, off we go, and we'll go to game 2.
And you do not have the best reactive spells. And now look at this position Viktor is in, forcing your opponent to play a challenge from a pit rookie onto a recruit token. That is absolutely nasty. So we're going to recycle some runes. Sabotage is going to be used, and that is bad news because possibly the best card.
And you see 2 singularities though. So at this point you're looking at like, what is the thing that gets me out of this situation? And yeah, you see 2 singularities is like, well, I can't take both of those. So we're gonna just scoop it up and go to game 2 and look at sideboards.
So Anthony concedes this one versus QBECZKOWO. I hope I got that name right. But that was very impressive from the Kill Viktor deck. Viktor Innovator, the Mind Viktor chosen champion. You know, in set 1 in Origins, there was most of the time a Viktor leader in your deck, so that was the Order chosen champion. That one, whenever you pushed another one of your units and it, you know, got killed, you got another recruit token. In this build, there's not too many non-recruit tokens or units that you're having, so that's that.
Yeah, and this is reminiscent of the Viktor deck that came out right at the beginning, when we were watching a lot of best of ones coming from local and kind of regional games in China before the first actual regional qualifiers. We were seeing a lot of this like no unit Viktor being played. It's very similar, but with a slight tilt on it. I know there are some lines in the deck that does have a unit involved. So for full context, players that play on the feature match, they do, obviously we can see their their deck. We can see the cards in front of them. We do have the deck list, but this is a closed deck list tournament, so I'm a little hesitant to reveal too much about each deck's specificity on things. But obviously this Viktor is a potent force when you do have so many kill spells to be able to control the game. So we're going into game 2, obviously post sideboards now, and the battlefields have been changed. So we're now on Sunken Temple.
Dreaming Tree and Rockfall Path.
Dreaming Tree and Rockfall Path. I apologize, I was reading it off my phone. And
so the Rockfall Path is very, very interesting in this deck, because units can't be played there. So your opponent is not going to be able to use any units from hand, just put them there when they control their battlefield, makes it really harder to hold that field, and gives Viktor most of the time the chance to just score a point off of a recruit token and outgrind your opponent, or outrace your opponent while you're trying to outgrind them. Now that we have the Dreaming Tree Unsung Hero, and I think we have a BF Sword equipped already.
Which means we're going to draw a lot of cards off this battlefield.
That is true.
Unsung Hero, drawing cards, Dreaming Tree, drawing cards, you know,
all the time. But you know, last game we saw a card in hand of Obo, I'm just going to call him that now, and that was a unit that is really, really cool, the Renata Glass Imperialist.
Yes.
It says your tokens enter ready. If you have this with the Vanguard gear, that is a lot of might all of a sudden.
Yep, a big swing of being able to put recruits ready onto the board. Already a good clutch of spells in hand for our Viktor player.
I mean, you almost feel like a Nexus, right? Spawning minions that are just running at your opponent. But QBECZKOWO, sorry, the Obo was wrong, is now contemplating what are we doing here. So there is, of course, an easy point taken, the Rockfall Path. You're not really suffering from the downside of that card because you barely play any units. However, are you dealing with that Unsung Hero? No, there's plenty of ways for Viktor to deal with it, but do you just want to give your opponent draws?
Exactly. That was going to be my question. Is I can see, I think there's a Color Weak in hand, which obviously is a relatively cheap way of dealing with it, or you have to drag under, which looks like will be the option. So is going to come through. Obviously, this is saying, well, I'm going to give you a bunch of cards, but I think it gets worse if this sticks around. Yeah. I need to stabilize the game a little early on.
They will get the draw at some point.
And one reason not to go for Color Weak here is a matchup specific thing that I'm kind of like assuming comes later. There are a couple of cards in this Fiora deck that have deflect, and Color Weak kind of works around that. Like if you, for instance, if your opponent taps out for like Fiora Victorious, and that's the only unit there, well then Color Weak is going to deal with that problem because you just sack the recruit and you don't have to deal with a deflect.
Well, speak of the devil and find him. I think we just saw one in hand there. That is a really, really strong card. Getting so many keywords all of a sudden by just getting Mighty somehow. There we go. Oh, Sabotage is being used. Deal. Oh yeah, and that is again Imperial Decree Bellows Breath combination. I think when you're looking at that hand, oh wow, it's so tough. You don't take the Decree for sure.
Because yeah, there's two of them as well, so you're like, maybe not so bad. Also, I think knowing the Bellows Breath combo here is in hand, maybe there's a way you can play around it a little bit better. I don't know whether it's Color Weak, but certainly that's like in my mind of like, if I'm tapping out to play a big unit, I really don't want to invest and have it die. I could deal with it now. You
know, now that you say it, I think it's 100% Color Weak that you're taking, because you can very well play through this Imperial Decree and Bellows Breath combination, usually, you know, by spreading your units to different battlefields and your base, of course. But then again, if your opponent is playing a token deck and is getting recruits out every day, then it's gonna be tough to keep your units safe at the battlefield if the Imperial Decree is just going to be played. So that's a tough one already, but you can't get rid of the Imperial Decree because there's another one.
Yeah, that's always like a frustrating position when you do have your opponent reveal their hand and you're taking cards out of it, and you're like, well, I really want to take one, but the fact that you have two means I have to go a completely different route.
Yeah. We're going for a set Brawler developed here as well, and oh, that was the riposte from the side deck instead of a exhausted rune that was being channeled there. Oops, that could happen. Interesting that we did not side in the third riposte, because many people have been going away from playing the triple riposte main deck because it's just not that great versus Draven. So that's some information there. He's laughing.
I mean, it's stage nerves on day one.
100%. Anthony, you're doing great. Don't worry about that.
It's judge. My opponent revealed information on himself and what has been cited in and cited out.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know, right?
No, poor me. But yeah, we're going to wait this out for a quick second. Can't be too long. But what do you think of the position Viktor is in right now? You are actually going to hold with a recruit token. You have not developed the one in the last turn, so that's a very interesting thing to note here. That Viktor had actually a point in time where he couldn't give you a unit, and that is massive sometimes.
And I think looking at this matchup a little bit, I think Fiora, when I say is like a little more stable compared to the first round, Viktor's about to get to 6 and might be stuck in a loop of like staying around this amount of runes on the board where oh, it looks like it actually came from perhaps the main deck. I was getting set brawl up on screen. So I was going to say Viktor goes up to 6, and now if you want to clear units out, you're again going to have to recycle down. Not having the gear in the early game is a little bit different. The seal that allows you to tap to instead of recycling does mean Viktor kind of stays in a point where you're recycling a lot to cast these big spells.
That is true, and also sometimes when you're only having those kill spells in hand, there's not really a way for you to interact with your opponent if they're playing it calm, right? So the set brawler is in base there. What are you really doing? You can develop the Viktor Innovator, that's nice, but we also know the hand. There's not too many cards in your hand that can be played on the opposing turn. Maybe a Hidden Blade, finding some new cards. That could work, I think.
And this is a situation where you're like, well, the recruit's going to die. If you challenge this battlefield at all, I'm just going to be okay with drawing 2 cards, and that's totally fine. I've developed on my turn. Also, counts as playing a card on your opponent's turn, so you're going to get that recruit back. So essentially, there's no real loss on making that exchange.
I think the easiest way to explain while hiding a card and then playing it counts as playing is Teemo.
Yeah, that's fair.
The chosen champion unit, the Swift Scout, that just gets +3 might when it's being played, so you hide it and then you flip it over, and then it's all of a sudden a 4 might unit for 2 energy. But now Set Brawler is going to conquer the Dreaming Tree. I think Dreaming Tree by now has to be everyone's favorite battlefield.
It's not my favorite, I'll be honest. My opponents always draw off it way more than I do, and I think that's more saying things about me than it is about the battlefield.
I was going to say that could be a driver versus car situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is, I'll tell you that much. So taps the Fiora, gets a rune, and will pass. So no opportunity to play the Hidden Blade that turn, because Set goes to the other battlefield. Of course, that is one limitation of hiding a card like Hidden Blade, is it is now kind of locked to the battlefield that it is hidden at.
But I really like this. I mean, you wouldn't have activated to chain it to any kind of spell or something, except for when it removed the recruit, because it just gives you another point. The recruit is working over hours. You get 3 victory points from 1 recruit. That is insane. That might be a world record, actually. I'm lying again. Sorry.
It is a lot of momentum gained by just a single recruit. Here's the moment now where do you just eat the deflect cost and say, well, I guess now that we've paid 1, we probably can't get there. For Singularity, not an option so much anymore.
There's a BF sword as well, so we're at 8 might.
Oh, of course,
no,
thank
7
you.
might. We're not a defender, but.
Yeah, so we are up above Singularity range. That is one of those break points that we were talking about in game 1. The Fiora can get up and out of Singularity range. So now we start looking a little bit further into the line of like, okay, I have to either try an Imperial Decree with recruits, or is there another way? Like if there are any more drag unders, that type of playing.
I think you're just chilling on the side of Viktor. Your opponent isn't running away from you or anything. They're just at 2 points as well.
How important do you think the salvage is that's in hand for our Viktor? Because there are not amazing targets for, you're not looking at GAs or anything like that, like the Guardian Angel to take away so much at this current board state, but is removing the BF sword significant? One of the things that Fiora can do is like re-equip gear like a BF sword and go to battlefields multiple times trading. Is it worth taking out? I'm not sure in this current board state, but it would take away all of the keywords that Fiora has.
Yeah, I think you're saving yourself the deflect costs by just paying for the salvage.
Yeah,
so
that's actually very true.
But I mean, you put it at least into the Singularity range. The +3 might effect aggressively for Anthony is not doing too much. There's almost always going to be just a recruit in those battlefields. So it doesn't matter if you have 2 might or 7. There's really no... I mean, with 2 might, there might be Stupefy, but that's a whole different story. But I think still the salvage is really good. It draws you a card. At some point, you might have the chance to play out a seal, so you can basically play it out for 3. I think the only problem you have with it is that it just recycles a rune.
Very true. Is action speed as well, though, so it will allow things. Going to force out the Hidden Blade. So I guess I'm looking at the line here. So wants to draw the cards to be able to just make sure you can play the rest of the turn. I was working through that matchup. So does Fiora go to the battlefield now? That is the important thing, because you cleared it out. So I guess you send him in.
That is very interesting. I was wondering why Anthony targeted the Recruit and not the Viktor Innovator that is going to grab so much value, especially when you play the Salvage as an action on the opposing turn to get another Recruit token. I think he might have figured that the Hidden Blade would be used on the Fiora, and you know, in Anthony's position, I understand that, because you need to value your units a lot more.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is where having perfect information on the game does change quite a bit, where we know that salvage is coming. We're drawing just every card in the deck. It's
wait, now
Stupefy for -1, now that it doesn't have the deflect.
Now Fiora is also at 3 mites, so this is Wages of Pain range.
Yeah, Wages of Pain.
With 2 runes, I don't think that's going to be a problem, though.
Yeah, that's very fair. I was going to say, in you know, one of the new cards that came with Spirit Forged, another direct damage ability that kind of can deal with situations like this. Now that Fiora doesn't have deflect, you aren't paying so much, but look at how much resources that Viktor had to go through to get to this point. Even without paying for deflect, you're like, well, I'll recycle and keep going.
True, But I mean, the Stupefy also gave you another token, so I think
just draw a token,
get a token for 1 energy is fantastic.
And
value.
we know the follow-up is Imperial Decree, because there's 2 in hand. So you're saying, I will trade a point on this turn and let you have this, and I'm just going to trade 1 recruit to each battlefield for the next turn.
All right, okay, so we're at 4 points for Anthony and 3 points for QBECZKOWO. And we're getting 2 more order runes, which is important because previously we couldn't have activated Imperial Decree.
Ooh, very true.
It needs 2 order. We only had 1.
I'm wondering whether the math worked out there, that you knew a yellow one was coming with 5 blues on the battlefield already.
All right, we're gonna use Imperial Decree. Oh, there's gonna be some recycling. Repose is huge here. That takes away so much tempo. And now it doesn't really matter how many... Oh, you can actually just use your Grand Duelist as well now. Wow, that we have boosted up the Fiora. 2 runes left open. We are deflecting and we are mighty. Oh, and that is an army of recruits. We're gonna start the Glorious Revolution and go into the Dreaming Tree.
But alone, alone they can't contest the Fiora, so you need something else on top of it. So this is just saying, okay, well, we're going to have to clear set out. There's still 2 open, and one of the cards that came in Spirit Forge, Punch First, I think I've seen one in hand for JW Anthony. Deramps you, but it will deal with situations like this very effectively. There are also other cards in JW Anthony's deck that can indeed, you know, get you out of this situation, but that is one of the best that is available. You don't necessarily need to go that hard over the top. You're only 5 recruits in play, but
I mean, you can't choose always.
Yeah,
right? So
sometimes you just got to use the tools that are in the hand.
I think if you trade a Punch First, and it deramps you, of course, takes 2 power cost. If you trade it for 5 tokens, I think you're good with that trade. Yep, and there is 1 energy, 2 power paid. Punch First is going to take away those body runes.
And we think of how much Viktor spent to get those recruits on the last turn. There was a lot of deramping and using a Stupefy on, you know, like a card to be used. Yes, okay, you get the card draw with it, but Punch First is just going to say, nope, we're going to get through this moment. Now the question is, do you take the Hidden Blade trade here and get rid of the set?
I think you want to, actually, because then you get to keep all of your recruit tokens. That is huge. What you can also do is, of course, use it on one of your recruit tokens, draw 3 cards because of the Dreaming Tree, but also now that is only one rune left open for Anthony. You know you're out of riposte range. I think your opponent is playing heavily towards keeping their own units. I think you want to take out that set. Also, because if you let this go through, your opponent goes to 6 while controlling 2 battlefields with a deflect unit.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a question of how much can Viktor stabilize from a situation where you lose all the recruits, and I don't think it's anywhere near as easy as Fiora closing out the game. So I think that is a choice that makes sense from this situation. Keep your recruits, allow you to play for a further turn.
But do you think there is something that QBECZKOWO did not account for, and that is the ganking keyword on the victorious Fiora? Because if you boost that one up with something like a BF sword, that could get rid of those recruit tokens really fast.
Yeah, let's see the hand of JW Anthony, see what's there, see what options are available to give that keyword of ganking over.
I mean, you just need to give it 1+ might. There has to be something in your hand that gives it 1 extra might.
We did just see the hand. I saw a lot of units. I saw like a Lucian, I saw...
That is wild. I mean, ideally, I think those are 5 recruit tokens, right? Ideally, you give the Fiora +2.
There's a non-ideal line where I think I saw a death grip in hand.
Oh,
so do you play a unit, kill your unit, give it to Fiora, and you just take that trade and you say, well, Fiora is going to be able to gank, but I have to, you know, spend a lot to do it. Death grip, again, a card that you kill a unit, give its might to another friendly unit. You do draw one as well from it, so it's kind of an even trade. You're like, I'll take 5 recruits and a draw.
I think you do, but with so many cards in hand, you have to find a way. Or that is the Warmogs. Double Warmogs brings us up to 6 might, deflect, and most importantly, ganking. Of course, we can also channel 1 Rune Exhausted as well, again with the Fiora Grand Duelist. And now with the keyword ganking on a completely exhausted rune field from QBECZKOWO. This is going to be game for Anthony, picking up the cards, and this is how it can go too if you can't start running away with the game with Viktor. And there we see Anthony victorious, revealing that riposte, but you know, eventually probably got to draw it anyways, and you know what? Card was good.
Yeah, pretty good card. Those Warmogs as well, just hiding, tucked away in the back of the hand, doing the easy job of just playing a gear and equipping it rather than finding the convoluted line that goes down a strange path. But that means we're 1-1 in our first series between these two. Interesting to see how Viktor was able to, you know, take game 1 quite swiftly, quite easily, and Fiora kind of just like really fighting through those spells and going above and beyond, making sure you're not in singularity range, trying to trade as effectively as possible.
I mean, when you're saying trade as effectively as possible, we saw a drag under used on an unsung hero that was mighty. That is such a discrepancy in value in these cards. It's really hard to come back from that with any deck if you're using a 5 energy, 1 power cost card on a 2-drop. Essentially, that draws you 2 cards. It's tough.
And I think maybe not necessarily about the players in this match specifically, because we are playing at a regional qualifier level, so I expect everybody in this room is very familiar with card games, but for newer players that might not understand how important drawing cards is, it is possibly like the strongest mechanic in the game. Is like, if the more cards you have in your hand, the more you're able to play around things. So never give your opponent free cards if you don't have to.
Exactly. And now, when you're talking about drawing cards, there's something that feels like drawing cards, and that is for the Viktor Innovator deck, the Ravenloom Conservatory. This card is insane. When you're defending there, you look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a spell, you get it to your hand. Viktor has so many of those, so you're almost always going to draw one of those. You start with a recruit token, so you're always going to have a 2-drop or a 1-drop basically, so you're going to play a unit on your first turn. So this card is just free value for you.
I'm time traveling. There's the Sunken Temple coming through. I love the conservatory that you were talking about as well. As you said, you're basically always the defender if you set up, and of course Viktor going first is going to allow that move to the conservatory as turn 2 begins. So there's the unsung hero. There is a Warmogs as well played for Fiora, so very similar to the previous game, although it was BF sword in game 2.
That is very interesting to me, because The question that you have to ask yourself now, is that a strong start? You started with, in your first turn, you used up all your energy, right? You used the runes. You played 2 cards, so you have 2 cards less in hand. And they are not a combination, you know? Unsung Hero plus Warmox, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's just a whole pile of nothing. So maybe you are lacking good cards that you can use as follow-up, because the start of the Viktor deck inherently is strong going first with the Ravenbloom Conservatory.
Okay, so there is a BF sword in hand.
That is possibly a side-decked card.
Yes, I'm going to bring it up on stream.
Unyielding Spirit.
It's, you know, a tech card that we saw a lot in Origins, at least against Kaiser decks. So again, this matchup is so much based on direct damage abilities.
Yeah.
Here is the play on Sunken Temple. Wages of Pain comes out, and we'll deal with the. Oh wow, that's a really early use.
We're throwing it in immediately. So are we going to even? I don't even think you get the gold token then, right? Because you're not doing the damage that Wages of Pain wants you to do. We would have to read up on the Wages of Pain card as well to see the exact wording.
Let's get it for you here.
Because gold tokens, I think, if we check out the last games that we've seen.
One thing about Riftbound is because it's kind of like do as much as you can. It is within the rules. I'm assuming that it's because it's deal 3 damage to a unit, play a gear, gold gear token exhausted. You're going to be able to do that regardless. It is my interpretation and the way that the players have played it. So it's, you know, pay 3, get a gold. It's not as much as I would like, but at least the opponent playing Unyielding Spirit for now. That's a big, like on a future turn where you're committing a lot for Singularity, that blowout would have been huge. So getting it away is already a good thing, I would say, for Viktor.
True. If you're trading, also you did not trade any power cost, right? So you actually DRAM'd your opponent while not having this yourself. This is nice. If you can use Stupefy for an even trade with a recruit unit, I think you're happy with that card. Just getting free value out of this. And you can see Anthony just did not go into the Ravenbloom Conservatory once because he knows that is going to give my opponent a draw. I do not want that necessarily. So you can go into the Sunken Temple. You can spend 1 energy to draw another card. That is good value for you. But again, a recruit token that is pulling the overhours.
Gold +1 salvage is going to make it not mighty anymore, so you won't be able to activate Sunken Temple. And now Fiora does not have all of those keywords: deflect, ganking, and shield. So a little bit less potent. It's still difficult to deal with without a follow-up spell. Recruits obviously really struggle to get past larger units like Fiora without the assistance of an Imperial Decree or Wages of Pain or damage that comes through. And there's a BF sword to say, okay, well, we'll get through that after. I won't draw the card, but I'll still make sure Fiora is safe.
So we're equipping it immediately as well, and I'm wondering if there ever was a turn for an Imperial Decree. Is it now? Because I think you have a very, very healthy rune management.
If the Imperial Decree, sabotage is huge. Sabotage is huge. I mean, Imperial Decree is there, and look at this hand. Double Bellows Breath with an Imperial Decree and 2 Hidden Blades. 3 Hidden Blades.
Oh, wow, those are plenty of blades, man.
So Fiora's like, well, I'm probably drawing a lot of cards if you're using them on my units, but that is a lot of kill spells to just eat through the units that Fiora has.
But I mean, I think Anthony is in desperate need of more cards. I don't even know if he has any left in hand, because that was plenty of cards played without any card draw in the first turns. Unsung Hero just dying without doing anything. I think he's at 1 card in hand, so he'll gladly take that Hidden Blade, but also needs to really top deck off of it. Because if you don't find the units, well, I mean, then you don't win the game, huh?
Yeah, a lot being spent. Oh, draws the Vanguard Armory off the card after the Sabotage has been used. Yeah,
I dig it. That was a neat top deck.
Yeah, that is... In other games, you say you can't do stuff to the top of the deck. You can't sabotage the top of the deck. So that's the way I'm going to put it for Riftbound. You cannot sabotage the card on top of your opponent's deck. And sometimes it just draws exactly what they need to keep up the pressure. Imperial Decree was a problem, but now with Hidden Blades and a lot of recruit units, you're kind of like, well, I'm just going to be able to contest battlefields for as long as I can. You will not be able to keep up with the pressure that this Vanguard Armory is going to create through the game.
By the way, I love the hidden card there, which might be a hidden blade. Could also be
Do
Wages
you
of
think
Pain.
it's one of the 3 copies of Hidden Blade?
I think it could be a hidden blade, actually. And I think this is going to give so much value. You know, you're holding with the Fiora, you can gank with it, so you're going to draw a card off of Ravenbloom Conservatory most of the time. Then you're going to be able to Hidden Blade, draw 2 more cards, and then find
Defender
removal.
trigger first.
Oh,
so
wow,
it's
okay. It's spells.
no, it's to the bottom. So it's
Unlucky.
spells doesn't count on gear, but it's now C1 card. Decide whether you want to Hidden Blade your own unit or your opponent's unit. Maybe draw 2.
I think you do want to Hidden Blade your own unit. You want to find more Imperial Decrees. That is the most important card there. You're starving your opponent out on cards, which is huge. You do not want to Hidden Blade them. I mean, look at this. Your opponent has 7 runes, is this? 7 runes open.
Yeah.
2 cards in hand. I mean, okay, this was the first action done this turn, actually. Never mind. But
still, fewer options means
Yeah.
your opponent can't play their way out of a situation so much. So Hidden Blade comes out.
now
And-
choose a target.
And the Vanguard Armory means you no longer have to think about units as something that you have to worry about for the rest of the match. Yep, you're going to just draw your own. You're fine to take that. Wages of Pain goes into hand as well. So just more things that are able to take control of the game.
Was that a Frigid Touch too?
It
Because
did look like it.
That it's a good combination. However, repeating deflect cost is
It's
nasty.
painful. It is painful because they are separate. They are separate instances of that. So if it was indeed a Frigid Touch, then we may very well see that.
But I mean, Viktor is now at 20,000 cards in hand. I counted them myself. We're going to get even more recruit tokens.
Yeah.
The
Make a
Vanguard Armory.
recruit. Oh,
That is the nastiest one, and I think you will
It
have
was a
to
goal a
repose
week.
that if you want to stay in the game, but that is
Not
such
in
a
hand.
huge tempo swing. The Fiora Victorious actually granted you 2 points per turn, and now...
that's exactly the interaction we talked about earlier in the game, when Fiora Victorious is the only unit that is on the board, and Viktor has 6 recruits at that point.
Yeah.
Just kills one of the exhausted. Fiora has to be the target for Call of the Week. No riposte in hand. So again, if you'd have given your opponent the draws there's all the chance that they would draw into it. So keeping their hand low, keeping that economy extremely low for JW Anthony, it puts him in a really difficult position.
And this is also a very high display of skill level, because you are not panicking about points. Some players would go, oh my goodness, the Fiora player, if they get 2 more points next turn, then afterwards I lose, they're already at 4. If they get to 6, oh my goodness, I'm so cooked. But no, if you're just calm and collected, and you think, okay, I have like 8 more good outs to this Fiora without giving my opponent cards, they're at 4 points right now. There is a good chance that I'm just chilling with this.
Yeah, this is a difficult situation to be in. I don't think we've seen JW's hand in quite some time. So we'll see what they have available. I'm trying to think of like available lines. They still do have Fiora Worthy from the Champion Zone, but Fiora Worthy alone dies to Wages of Pain without any kind of equipment. There is a BF sword there, so can equip it to be able to then, play this turn like with the ready, or it looks like it might be, first mate is going to allow that without it, but here comes the Wages of Pain.
Oh, but it looks like we have missed our Ravenbloom Conservatory trigger, but we're able to still use it. Oh, hitting all the gears here with the Seal of Unity, and I believe that's a card that you would have just liked to see. But then, of course, when declaring who is attacker and who is defender, then you would have to trigger the Ravenbloom Conservatory, and then you actually get to use your actions.
That is true. It does resolve before the action step. I think that's what the players were just talking about as well. Paying for the cost kind of skips over, but I feel like at this point JW Anthony is just looking for a call to glory.
Trundle makes an appearance, so we are going down to 6, or going up to 6 might. Grand Duelist can use the ability as well, so we can get another rune. But how much are runes going to help us in this game? I mean, we are ramped up because we haven't played cards recently.
Yeah, there hasn't been the ability to play them out. So gold comes from the Wages of Pain. Oh, and now we've turned the corner to like, okay, I have control. Hidden Blade, I'm going to let you have cards. It's okay, you're tapped out on this turn. I've got nothing to worry about until on my next turn. I'm going up to 7. You have to contest both battlefields, and I have kill spells in hand. This is the moment where hand size does not matter. As long as you've got those kill spells in hand to be able to clear the board continually.
Yeah, there is only a first mate, and that might be the last chance for JW Anthony to just get back into this game. But QBECZKOWO is in control. Also, if you're checking the heart rate that we have on screen, he's very calm.
Understandably, JW Anthony's heart rate through the roof right now.
Oh yeah,
basically getting the equivalent of a workout in playing this game. Oh, just turn that dice to 6. That's fine. Although
keep in mind
they are
not
tapped.
ready.
Yeah, I was going to say they are not ready for this.
We get another one. It's just all the dice on all the units. That is 10 recruit tokens. Actually 12 in total.
Now it's correct. Untap awaken 6. 4 of them are from this turn. So that's now it makes sense. I was about to say we don't have 10 ready. Was that just, I'll make 4 recruits pass? Yeah, sure, okay, I've got cards in hand.
But I mean, you never want to have more than 1 recruit in a battlefield. I mean, there are some scenarios where you really want, but I think those are the more rare ones.
Call to Glory drawn off the top. So how much have we got? You have to clear both battlefields. Doesn't have it in our first game of the day. Taken down by Viktor. QBECZKOWO taking the win. I really hope that pronunciation is correct, and I'm sorry if it wasn't.
We're going to ask later.
I definitely will make sure to ask, as hopefully we'll see more from Viktor throughout the day. Quite a hard-fought matchup.
Yeah, the kill Viktor really looks strong here. I mean, you're getting endless resources with those recruit tokens. You're keeping your opponent low. You're basically forcing them to not really participate in the game with you. Every single time they try to conquer something, they're getting nervous. They're going, is my unit gonna make it? And there's just this one recruit token looking at you like, that's got a kill spell backing up.
Yeah, a lot of kill spells. I mean, when your opponent reveals their hand and it's like Imperial Decree, 3 Hidden Blades, and then some more spells that are just going to take your units out, like, how do you even play around that when you've got, like, you're taking 1 away, and you're like, well, I've got bad options all across the board.
I mean, if you want to counter that kill spell Viktor deck, you would have to play, I mean, a full Poro deck, basically, right? You need so many units to even be able to score points to outvalue them, and this is where the meta game comes in, because Draven, the glorious executioner, seems to be one of the best decks in the room, if not the best deck. And this deck actually forces you to play, I want to say, less units, because going into combat with Draven means that Draven is going to draw a lot of cards, so you want to build your deck differently. You want to play less units, and that might then backfire against some decks like the Viktor Innovator. Yeah,
and this is one thing actually that I think best of pricing for an event like this regional qualifier does affect the meta in some ways, because decks like Fiora have some strong matchups and then have some matchups that are very difficult, and those are the matchups that can kill all of your units and then just go wider than you. And round 1 you're like, yes, I'm ready to play Fiora, and I'm opposite Viktor with kill spells, with recruits that can just go wide. The rest of the day you might hit matchups that are better, but round 1 you started like, of course I drew into a difficult one to begin the day.
But I think it's also, actually, you know what, we were saying that the Unyielding Spirit versus the Wages of Pain, that looked very, very difficult to start with. You know, you're investing so much, such a huge important side deck card. But were there ever really big kill spells with damage like Singularities played in that game? I think that was actually an excellent use of the card.
Yeah, I would love to know more about perhaps if there were any sideboard choices for Game 3 specifically, because Game 2 we saw the attempted use of damage-based spells to kill units from Fiora, but she just kind of went over the top and was able to survive through.